Hey, everybody, this is episode number 28 of the Next Step podcast, where it's all about learning about real people like you who are taking their next step in their journey with Christ. And today, you're going to see this like a week later, but I voted today. And if you didn't vote today, then no Christmas for you or something like that. I'm telling you, you got to vote. You got to take advantage of your citizenship responsibility. So I'm going to wear this proudly because I voted today. It's not about me, though. This is about Matthew Reichenbach, who is from Reidsville, North Carolina, and is a student at University of North Carolina, Charlotte, otherwise known as Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Right? They're trying to brand it that way.
Yep.
And just a really cool guy that's helping us out in cool ways. And I'm just grateful that you're willing to be here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. Really excited and enjoying it.
My pleasure. So a lot of people will say that people that are Gen Z, or you're probably Gen Z, aren't you?
Yeah, Gen Z. I actually looked it up today. We were talking about it at school. We were like, what generation? Now it's like Gen Z, 1997 to 2012.
That's right. So anyway, so I want to tell you this. Now, Matthew's 21, and he's an eligible bachelor. I don't know if he's going to be on the show on television or not, but anyway, or maybe he's not. I might get him in trouble. Is that right?
What?
Are you eligible or not?
Yeah.
Oh, he's eligible. Yeah. Good. Okay. I did not stick my foot in my mouth. I'm really good at that. I can take this and just chew on it for a while. I can do that all the time. So you're from Reidsville, North Carolina, and you chose to jump over UNCG and you chose to jump over Appalachian State to go to Charlotte. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So tell me about Matthew. Have you been in Reidsville all your life until you went to college?
Yeah. So I was born in Greensboro, but I grew up in Reidsville, and that's where I was until I came to college here in Charlotte, and have been down here for about 2 years now, going on 3. Just grew up in Reidsville. It's very rural. It's north of Greensboro, 20 minutes.
Yep.
Usually when I tell people that, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But, I grew up, lived with my parents and my brother.
Yeah. Older or younger brother?
Older.
Okay.
Yep. He left, he graduated high school in 2016.
Okay.
And he came down to Charlotte as well.
Okay.
So kind of followed in his footsteps a little bit.
That's cool.
But I was just growing up, going to high school, Rockingham County High School, played sports. I did football, swimming, track, was in Boy Scouts.
Cool.
All the way. I am an Eagle Scout.
Fantastic.
Yes. My parents are also honorary Eagle Scouts because both my brother and I are Eagle Scouts.
Okay.
So
parents get an award too if you get badges.
Yeah, they definitely are like, yeah, we have 2. I'm like, yeah, you're right because you've helped us out a lot. So it was really cool growing up there. Like you were saying, like UNCG, App State. I really narrowed it down between Charlotte and App State, and with my brother going to Charlotte, I was already familiar with it, and I was like, man, this is really, really cool campus, really cool environment. And I went and visited App State, and nothing against App State. It didn't feel like a fit for me. I was like, it kind of feels like home, and I'm trying to experience like new things and expand my palette and try and I felt like Charlotte was the best place for me to grow as a person. And if I were to go back and make that decision again, I would 100% go with Charlotte once again.
Awesome. Of course, we got this people in church. They're just Appalachian people, and it's all about the A. It's all about the C for you, and that's just completely cool.
Yep.
So I'm a Charlotte graduate as well, so I got my master's from there, and it's changed a lot from back when we used to call it UNC Concrete. It's like UNC Bricks now, right?
Yeah, a lot of bricks. We were actually at a football game the other weekend with my parents, and they're like, they should do a survey of like how many bricks are actually on this campus.
Yeah.
And I was just like, probably over 15 million.
Looks like it.
Like it's like every building is pretty much bricks. Like the walkways are bricks. The only thing that isn't bricks are the roads, and that's just pavement because probably by the time they ran out, it was just like, we'll just put pavement down instead of bricks. So
right. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's really grown that way. So tell us about your faith journey, kind of growing up and that kind of stuff. When did you come to receive Christ as your Savior?
So I actually didn't grow up in the church.
Okay.
I didn't, my
parents.
Every
Sunday Christian then? Okay.
No, I did not. We were living, and my dad, he was Catholic.
Okay.
And my mom, when she was growing up, her and her family went to church and everything. And when we were here, we didn't really go to church on Sundays. And actually, our neighbor down the road invited us to go to our church, or to the church that they went to, which
Okay.
I guess is my home-based church.
Right.
And we went, and I think it was like when I was 6 or 7, maybe.
Mhm.
We went there, and we went to church, and it was like, we really started enjoying it.
Cool.
For my brother and I, they had what's called children's church,
Okay.
where it's like you sing the worship songs at the beginning, you pray, you have children's time, and then you go downstairs and then you learn about Bible stories.
Okay.
And we went for that, and we really, really enjoyed that, and it was fun. And I think our parents saw that, and they were also looking to get back into church.
Right.
So they were really just all in, and we're like, okay, we're going to start going on Sundays, because before we would just wait around, watch football, and then it'd be time to go to bed and go to school.
Right.
But we started going on Sundays, started getting involved, and my parents and my brother, they accepted Christ in 2010 or 2011.
Cool.
And I saw them, and I was kind of jealous. I was like, well, I want to do that. Like, I want to be baptized. Like, I want to see that.
Yeah.
And like, I went to my parents. I was like, I want to be baptized. And I remember I was like crying. I was like,
wow.
I just want to do that because I see that you're doing it. And I didn't really know what it meant.
Right.
And they're like, I think you need to wait because this is like a big decision, and you just need to be patient. And I remember one night I was asleep, and I just felt the presence of God come over me, and it was like, trust in me and follow me. And
Wow.
like, I woke up and I was like in a cold sweat, and I was just like, I have to follow him.
Yeah.
Like it just,
Hey, mom and dad, guess what? God just talked to me.
yeah, that's why I was like, I felt him come to me during sleep. Like he just spoke to me, and, I talked with my pastor and everything. And
How old were you?
I was, oh goodness, it was back in 2012.
Okay.
So like 10,
Okay.
9, 10, around that age.
4th, 5th grade, something like that.
Yeah. And I was just like, I want to follow. And then I got baptized and found my faith in Jesus, and went through middle school, high school. And I was just I was still learning about it. Like, I knew all the Bible stories. Like, children's church, Miss Judy, she passed away just a couple of years ago. She was a big impact on my life. Yes. And she was teaching me. And once I like aged out of it to where I was like older, I was like, well, I still want to be down there and I want to help out. So I would go down and help out during the mornings with her. And like all throughout high school, I was just kind of, going to church, praising God, stuff like that. And
So you were always helping with kids too? Wow.
Yep, that whole time.
From the time that you started, or more like you're a teenager in middle school?
So when I, like after 5th grade, that's when you age out. So when I got to middle school,
right,
that's when I started
but
going
you still
in.
were helping out with the kids who are younger than you.
Mm-hmm.
How awesome is that?
Yeah. And
That's
I
cool.
think that is probably one of the reasons why I feel like am led to become a teacher is because like that was one of those like building blocks, like the stepping stone to say, hey, like maybe this is what you should be doing.
How cool is that?
Yeah. So, and then got to college, and with COVID happening and everything, it was a lot of time just
that's
being
weird
isolated.
Right,
and
so you graduated in 2020, right?
Yes. The last week of school, it was the most memorable because at the school, there was a bomb threat that got called in on Monday. And then on Wednesday, we had to go in lockdown because of a shooting thing. Like, I don't know if it was a drill or scenario or a threat. And then that Friday, they were like, hey, we're going to be out for about 2 weeks. And the last thing I remember doing was wiping down my desk in English class with a Lysol wipe. And like that, after that, it was like, oh yeah, we're not going back to high school, and we're not going to have a traditional graduation.
Right.
And
so was that like early March of 2020?
February, or no, not February. March 13th, Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. I remember that very vividly, and it was
So
I was like,
graduation
oh,
wasn't
it was
real either that year.
no, it was a lot of students were like upset that they weren't getting traditional, and a lot of parents. I was just kind of like, at this point, just I'll drive by, throw in the diploma, and
Yeah.
I will go on my way.
Yeah.
And my parents were like, no, you need to have a traditional graduation. And I was like, I mean, I'm fine with, like just I'm okay with getting the diploma and
Right.
just saying waving goodbye and moving on.
Right.
But they did like this parade kind of type thing. And I remember it being like 95 degrees, and we were wearing our cap and gown, and
In the car.
we were in the car, luckily, but then we had to get out and then walk and then wait because they were announcing us like one
Right.
by one. And I just remember standing there, and it was like the middle of the day,
That's surreal.
and it was when our colors were black and gray.
Yeah.
So our cap and gown was black.
Yeah.
And I just remember standing there. I was like, it is hot. I'm ready to walk through and
Yeah.
go leave. And yeah, but it was good
Wow.
and nice for what they did for us, because it definitely changed a lot of things.
Sure.
And everything went differently. But then like when I got to college, it was all online classes,
Wow.
Zoom University.
Zoom
was-
University.
Yeah, a lot of online classes. I would sit at my desk in my room, be in class, and then as soon as class ended, I would get up, walk out to the living room, and just sit and watch TV or something. There's not a whole lot to do.
Right.
And it was,
Do you feel like somebody stole your first 2 years of college from you to some degree? Or do
I
you feel like
mean-
you learned a new skill during that time that will carry you through the rest of your life?
I feel
Or
like,
both?
I feel like kind of both.
Okay.
I feel like starting out, I was like, well, I'm not really going to be able to make, college friends. Like it was
Right.
very challenging. And it was like, we can't really go hang out anywhere because of all these guidelines.
Yep.
And if we do, it's like, we got to be aware, like wear a mask and all that stuff. And I was like, I'm just kind of cool with doing my own thing, being in my own lane and stuff. I definitely became more aware of like, okay, there's a point of like when you have to do work,
Mhm.
and then like when you relax, and like when sometimes you take too much time for yourself, and it's
Mhm.
like, okay, you kind of got to get back into a groove of doing something. And like with COVID happening, I was always like doing something like sports,
You played football and you swam.
football,
and
swam,
baseball.
track. So I was just
Yeah.
doing all those things. And then Boy Scouts, like I was still involved with that
Right.
and doing that. And it was always like something going on. And then COVID, it kind of just stopped.
Yeah.
And it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And
How'd you cope
That-
with that?
it was definitely challenging. And like the most challenging part I find was working out. Like I knew that working out for me is something that I need for my health and like well-being,
Mhm.
not just like physically, but mentally, just able to like release like all the like stress and all
Mhm.
of that.
I get it.
And I found that because of COVID, I didn't really work out a whole lot.
Mhm.
And that was the hardest thing. And I didn't really have a purpose to work out. Like the reason I was always working out and like took weightlifting in high school was to get strong
Right.
for sports,
Right.
to be physically fit and all of that. Once that kind of stopped, it was like, okay, now what are you doing? Like, why do you need to work out? Like, yeah, you need to be healthy, but like, why? What are you trying to
Mhm.
reach? And that was kind of a challenging part
Sure.
to overcome. And then another part was loneliness. Like there was a lot of time where I was just by myself, because I lived with my brother and his friend, but they were older than me and they
Right.
had jobs. So they were gone for a majority of the day.
Mhm.
And I just remember being there and I was like, I really don't have anything to do. Like I can't really talk to anyone like that much, or, hang out. And, I like playing video games and stuff.
Right.
And when back in high school, when we didn't have jobs or anything, I was able to play with my friends, and like that was a form of communication. But when I got to college, it was like, okay, they started getting jobs, stuff like that, and couldn't really play with them during the day. I would play with them at night.
Right.
But it was a
It's weird.
it was a weird roller coaster. Learned a lot, and there were times that it was was pretty tough and challenging for sure.
So what would your routine look like before COVID? Like, for instance, you have typical school day and that kind of stuff. Are you going to practice in the afternoon, playing sports in the afternoon, then at night you're hanging out with your friends? And was there anything that you tried to take the place of that? Like, did you have FaceTime parties with friends or Zoom parties with friends or something so you'd all get online? What did you do to cope with all that?
So a typical day before COVID would happen, this was when I was high school.
Right.
I'd wake up like super early to obviously go to school. Be there for 8 hours or 6, 8, whichever it is. I think it's 8. Be there for 8 hours. And then after that would be practice.
Mm-hmm.
And practice would be for it would range depending on the day and like the sport and everything. It was like an hour and a half to 3 hours.
Okay.
So that took up a majority of the time. And then I would get home, eat dinner, usually do homework, and then hang out with my family for a little bit, like a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would be go to bed and then wake up, rinse, repeat.
Right.
When COVID hit, it was like everything stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, now you have all this time on your hands. What are you going to do with it?
Right.
And that was the challenging part.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that time, a lot of the high schoolers were like, well, we don't really know how to make online classes and online assignments. Like there were a couple, but there weren't like the amount you can have in college.
Right.
Like college level, they literally have courses that are completely asynchronous, which means it's all online. Like it's all on you. Like everything's there. You watch the videos on your own. You take your own notes. Like you're not having a traditional classroom of teachers up at the front teaching you. They're doing a slideshow, writing it down. It was like, it's all on your own.
Yep.
And it was just like, okay, you could do something in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it would be gone or it would be done. And then you have 8 hours of the day, pretty much, of just like, now what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning, I was filling that time with playing video games. At first, this was when Warzone for Call of Duty came out. So that was like massive. And we were always playing that.
Yeah.
Not very good at it, but we were just playing it to have fun. And it got around.
You're on headsets talking to your friends.
Yeah. The whole, like just talking. My mom, she was like, you're addicted to playing video games. Like you get frustrated a lot faster. You know, you're not spending a whole lot of time doing other things. Yeah. I was like, no, you're crazy, Mom. She actually printed out a 9-page like study on like how you can be addicted to video games and like how you can see the signs.
Right.
She was like, I read through it and I think it's showing up for you.
Wow.
And I was like, no way. She was like, yes, I'm not going to tell you need to read it, but I'm suggesting that you look over and read it. And I was like, man, like, no, you just don't get it. You just don't understand. Like, this is the only thing we can do right now. And I looked over it and I was like, I do definitely have a little bit
some of those tendencies.
Yeah. I'm like, I do get frustrated pretty easily. There are not a whole lot of other things going on. I was like, okay, so yes, you are right. As moms are always right. That's just a note to everybody. Your mom is always right. Yeah. So when I read that, I was like, oh, okay. So then I started to try and take down the time of how much I was playing. And it was around like April beginning. One of my friends, he got a job at Lowe's Foods and he was like, yeah, we have some openings. Like we're looking for another spot to come in and stock groceries. And I was like, okay. So I applied for it, got the job and started working during COVID, making money. So yeah,
that's one thing that didn't shut down the grocery stores, right?
No, that was high demand, and we were stocking stuff a lot.
Yeah.
And
so, what did you discover about people while you were stocking stuff during COVID? I mean, did you find that other people were lonely, and they a lot of times would come to the store so they would see the other people, or was it mostly just kind of like, go and grab my stuff?
I think it was go and grab my stuff and just kind of go, because everybody was wearing masks, and I think that kind of threw things off. And it was like, oh, we don't want to be hesitant. I remember a lot of people, like, I you doing that, you have to memorize where everything is at the store. And once you're doing it, you're like, oh, it's this right next to this product. And usually they'll be like, oh, can you tell me where this is? And it's like, oh, yes, this is on aisle 5 next to the brown sugar. It's up on the left. It should be on the top. If you can't find it, just come back and I'll be more than glad to like help show it to you.
Yeah.
The nice thing about it was I was actually able to talk with my coworkers, which started building back that social interaction.
Sure.
Like I'm a pretty reserved guy. Like I'm not always the first one to be like out the door, like, oh, I'm going to shake your hand first. Like I'm usually like waiting a little bit to be like, okay, let me gauge the situation, the room, and who I really want to, talk with. And it's really unique being a teacher.
Yeah.
But with that, it was just nice to like have that social interaction again and just talking with another human being, not over a headset or something like that.
Yeah. Emotional intelligence is kind of what they would say is that kind of capacity to interact with people and understand what circumstances are there to make good decisions and helping other people to do that too. So that's really fascinating. I've always wondered about that. I worked in the grocery store too when I was growing up. So I actually think everybody out there needs to work in the grocery store at least once.
It's an experience.
You learn a lot about people, whether they are kind or whether they're rude. You learn how companies stock things and why they put them together and how they put them together, how they market stuff. And it was just such an interesting time.
Yes, it definitely was.
Wow.
Probably the part I didn't like the most was having to, what they call is blocking, which is where you bring everything to the front.
To the front.
It was the frozen section.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah.
Frozen hands,
your hands, like the first couple of times I didn't wear gloves and my fingers were like freezing. I was like, I think I might get hypothermia.
Yeah.
And I finally put on gloves, but it's still putting your hands in like a 20-degree freezer and it's not like just a little short section. It's a long section of, you have your breakfast, your vegetables, your pot, like all of that stuff, ice cream. Yeah. What
did you dread the most of those sections? Was it like the ice cream section or the vegetable section?
I think it was just the whole thing because it was cold and
no matter where you put your hands.
No, like it was, you did like you open a door, you did that one section.
Yep.
You close it, you wait like a couple seconds to try and get your hands warm. You go to the next. I just was like, all right, my hands are going to be cold regardless. Like I'm just going to have to suck it up and pull everything to the front and do that. So
did you have stock nights where you're up all night long stocking? They still do things like that? Or is it
No, we were actually, the way it was working is we stocked during like shopping hours.
Okay.
Our trucks would come in, I think it was Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, I think. So we would unload all the stuff and we would come in around 3 o'clock, depending on how much we had. We would come in and we would stock during the day. Okay. And we would usually do whatever the most of. So like, for example, aisle 3 was like canned goods. And that was always the one that a lot of people were buying stuff with.
Right.
So we went in and we would stock that first. Then we would go to like the next biggest one. So like toiletries, the toilet paper and all that. Like
remember you could find toilet paper?
There was the longest time that we did not get toilet paper in.
Yeah.
And once everything kind of started balancing out and like, okay, this is what's happening. Like we're okay. Like you don't need to stock up on toilet paper. Like, you know, you just wait on it. And I remember it was like, we only got like a small amount. And I was like, okay, at least we have something.
Right.
And I was actually there to where like the shelves were just completely empty.
Yeah.
But by the time I had left, it was completely full again and people weren't buying it like crazy.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, that's so odd. Like,
yeah,
you just think something's going on. Oh, I got to get toilet paper.
Yeah. Like
and
bread
I can't.
Milk when it rains or it's cold rather, snows.
Yeah, definitely. And it was something.
Yeah. You learn a lot about people as far as that's concerned too. Who's generous, who's not, just all these kinds of things. Right.
Yeah.
Do they ever give you tips for taking their bags out?
No, I didn't have to do that.
Okay.
I was the main stocking.
You're stock dude.
Yeah. I was like, if you need to know where something is, go there. And I definitely use that now. Like when I'm in a store, I'm like, where would this be? well, this is going to usually be with like the sports drinks or the canned food. And I usually go that way and I'm like, oh, yep, there it is.
You got the categories right in your head.
Yep.
So what about football and track and swimming? And did you say baseball too?
No. Well, I did play baseball when I was like in 4th grade.
But that's what you did in high school. What did you play in football position?
I played linebacker and tight end.
Okay.
Yep.
Good deal. And then in track, what did you run?
I ran the 400 and the 4x4.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you can be fast for a long time.
No, not really. Yeah. The fastest I ever ran a 400 was 59 seconds. And I mean, the first ever track meet I ran, they usually how it goes, like the first heat that goes is always the fastest heat.
Right.
And in swimming, it's the opposite way.
Yeah.
Like your first heat is usually your slow, like your slower swimmers.
Yep.
And then your last heat is your fast swimmers.
Yep.
And track is the complete opposite way around. So I remember lining up, it was like 45 degrees outside. It was dark. I was ready to go at that point.
Yeah.
I hadn't ran at all. And I remember talking with the other guys. I was like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm about to be pretty slow. Like they looked like they had ran track before. This was like the first time I was like, I'm going to be pretty slow.
Yeah.
They all ran like 47s and like in the 50s. I ran like a 103 and they were like, that's pretty good. I was like, compared to them, to me, that's slow. So that was I was like, I don't know. I was just, when my parents were there and they were like, yeah, when you were running, you saw everyone else run. And then they saw you just coming right along. I was like, yeah, that was
Thanks
me.
a lot, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
How about swimming? What was your swimming thing?
So I swam the 200 freestyle.
Okay.
I did the breaststroke in the medley relay, the 100 breaststroke. And then usually those were always the main 3 that I swam.
Yep.
But sometimes I would swim like the 50 free or the 200 free relay or the 400 free relay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very versatile.
Yes. And my coach, she actually told me like senior year, she was like, the first event is always the medley relay.
Yeah.
And in that, it's you're swimming a 50 everything and you're sprinting it the whole time. So I was sprinting breaststroke, and breaststroke is not the fastest of the swimming strokes.
Yep.
So I was going as fast as I could.
Yeah.
And then right after it is the 200 free.
Okay.
Now, the only time that I could give myself a little bit of a break is when the girls swam first, because it would go girls and then boys, and it would alternate like that.
Okay.
So the girls would swim, and it was only usually like one heat, and then it would be the boys. And so by the time I would literally catch my breath and calm down, I would be up on the block getting ready to go for the 200 free. I would swim like the first 25, and as soon as I did that flip turn, I was done. I was spent for the rest of the race. I was like, I'm just surviving. I'm trying to get out of this. And my coach, she was like, I think I finally figured out why you're so slow in the 200 free, or you're not as fast as you should be. I was like, why do you think that is? Because you swim the medley right before it. I was like, yeah, I've been doing that for 3 years now. And this was senior year.
Right.
She was like, yeah, I get that, but you're still going to swim it. I was like, okay. So
that's great, man.
Yeah.
So which one of those do you enjoy the most? Is there a seasonality to it where you like this season swimming, this season for track and field?
I'd probably put track and field at the bottom just because I was doing that to stay in shape for football and to get faster. Yeah. Football and swimming. I like swimming because, one, we won a lot. Right. We won a lot of meets and we were really good in swimming.
Winning helps everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, it helps a lot in the process. Yeah. And being able to like build those relationships with them and kind of like really focusing on your relay and being like, hey, we got to get this down pat. And like, we're trying to make it to states, which we did senior year, which
fantastic.
Thankfully, I was like, that was like my one goal. I was like, if we make it to states, like that's all that matters. But football, I absolutely love football. Like I think it's the greatest sport in the world. We were not the greatest. Like we didn't lose every game, but we didn't win a lot of them. And they weren't like just super like close games. They were like, oh, we're usually losing by like a good amount. Okay. And it was tough to kind of digest and like, you practice every week and you
Yep.
try, and it's like you still lose in the end. That's kind of a hard thing to overcome.
Sure.
But I was like, you know what? I just am going to go out there. I'm going to give it my best. Like
Mhm.
I'm going to do my job. I'm going to
Yep.
do what I have to do, and I'm going to trust the other 10 guys on the field to do their job. And that's how it usually was going. There were some tough breaks that we had, but it was a really good it's a really, really good learning experience. Like, you know, if you mess up, like you own up to it. Like that's how any sport goes. It's like, oh
Right.
yeah, I messed up. Like you have to take that on. You can't really blame it on anyone else but yourself.
Right.
I definitely learned a lot, how to keep going and keep fighting, because there's a lot of people that could just probably say, you know what, I'm just going to not play football anymore because we're losing. We're not winning.
Yeah.
It's
So you learn
easy.
character and
It's
resilience.
easy to play when you're winning, but it's more of a challenge to play when you're losing.
Right.
And I actually remember my senior year, one of the fellow seniors, they were asking me, like in the middle of practice, they're like, why are you going so hard all the time? I was like, you know, you practice as you play, and like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to make us better.
Yeah.
Like if we just keep taking it easy, like we're going to lose by a lot more than we are now. And
Been a
it's
good
like,
example for them.
and it's like, you're out here for 3 hours. Like you're just practicing and you're trying to be the best that you can be. Like there's no sense of trying to slack off any of it at
Right.
all.
Wow. Well, the fact that you're willing to stay at it actually demonstrates great things about you and character too. I mean, being a teacher, you know, you've been in the classroom now in preparation for becoming a teacher next year. By the way, do you have an immediate job after graduation? Have you already interviewed, or are you still interviewing?
So I'm still in the process of interviewing. There are a couple options out there.
Okay.
Definitely keeping my options open right now.
Well, but just the classroom. I mean, 7-8 hours with 4th and 5th graders all the time.
Yeah, 20 different students. It's a lot of it's a lot of personalities. A lot of people like teaching. Oh, it's not that hard. Anybody that wants to come and see a classroom, you're more than welcome to. I will show you the ropes. Like
and it's not easy.
It's challenging because you have, depending on your class size, like right now we have 20 students in our class. You have 20 different personalities that
Mhm.
you are interacting with
Yep.
every day. It's not like you get them for a little bit and then say, oh, there you go. You're off doing your own thing. Like it's definitely challenging, and I definitely enjoy it though. Like you never know what kids are going to say
Mhm.
and what they're going to do. Like there's some things like kids would come up and say, I'm like, did you just say that? Like, and the most challenging part I find right now is when they tell me something and they're saying it like dead serious.
Yeah.
And it's funny.
Yeah.
And they're like telling it to me seriously.
Yeah.
And I try not to laugh.
Yeah.
So like
What's an example of that? Where kids said something that they just thought was really matter of fact and you thought it was hilarious. Do you remember?
Right off the top of my head, I can't.
That's fine.
Really
It'll come
think.
to you. If it comes to you, you can tell it to us.
Yeah, I know during recess it happens a lot.
Yeah.
One time we were out there and the other teachers I'm working with currently, a kid said something and one of the teachers had to look away because he was trying not to laugh.
Yeah.
And he looked at me. He's like, I couldn't even look at you because you had the smirk on your face. Of like, I'm not trying to laugh, but I'm like kind of grinning because it is funny, but it's just it's a little bit challenging with that.
Wow. Well, I admire you. My daughter teaches not too far from here, Belmont Central, and it's hard to be in a classroom all the time. It really is.
Yeah.
Because of attention spans and energy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. 40 minutes. That's as much time as a kid, probably even less now. It's probably like down to 30, maybe 25.
Yeah, and you're
Like
used
if
to
they're
seeing
not-
stuff, video games, instantaneous action, or commercials every 7 or 8
That
minutes. And now they
constant
last 5
stimulation.
seconds. You know, so then another one. So you run into all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. It's definitely, I've been learning a lot of things with where I'm at right now. Trying to find ways to keep them engaged. And one of the things is I have a supervisor at the university.
Mhm.
And one of the things she was telling me was like, oh, you need to cut down your directions. Cause like when you look at videos that they watch, their directions and things are very short, quick, and to the point. So like a thing I've been trying to practice is, all right, break down my directions,
Mhm.
and it completely flows
Make
a
it
lot
simple.
better. And it's pretty straightforward. And it's just trying to find those little things that work, because every teacher is different. And like the way that the teacher that I'm with now, who's like my mentor teacher over me, the way that they operate is completely different to how I operate.
Sure.
Like, they operate in a different way. And that's the thing
You
really
use
with
your own skills and your own voice,
yes,
right?
like that's the thing with teachers, is not every teacher is going to be the same. There's going to be similarities between like a few teachers, but they're all not going to be the same. Like the routines they're going to do, the way they present their instruction, the way that they involve their students in the work, how they take ownership, like all of that stuff. It's very, very complex,
Right.
when you really, really think about it.
Well, and that's why it's such a powerful thing that you do to do that. And having overcome the whole stuff that you went through with COVID, and your first 2 years or year and a half of college was online too, right?
Yep.
So what was it like when you were free and when people could go and gather? What did you choose to do moving out of that lonely period of COVID and being all by yourself? And you got your brother going off to work and friends and that kind of stuff. And now you get a chance. What were some of the things? How did that affect your time?
Probably around that time, it was like, it's no longer, okay, you're in an online classroom.
Mhm.
You're in an actual physical classroom.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning, we still had to wear masks
Mhm.
and everything, but we didn't have to really social distance. We
Right.
just made sure to wear masks at all times. Like,
Right.
couldn't do any, like every time we were in a building, in a classroom, always wearing a mask. So when that happened, I was actually really excited, because I was like, you know what? I actually get to interact with people
Yeah.
like face to face and do like that. I would say a majority of that time was spent doing that.
Right.
I didn't really like do anything like super, super crazy or out of norm. I was
Mhm.
just really focused on my schoolwork, because that's what I'm going to college for. Like,
Right.
I'm preparing myself for my future and like what I'm going to be doing down the road. Like, I still had my fun. It's not like I just went to school, class, came home, and then did absolutely nothing. I still went to the gym, hung out with people,
Yep.
stuff like that.
So is working out one of the first things you started doing again? When you could be?
So I was working out during COVID, but I wasn't working out a whole lot. I
Right.
went kind of through a spell of like, I wasn't working out too much. I was just kind of doing it to, if I got bored with my time,
Mm-hmm.
I would just go and work out and be like, okay, let me take up some time, do
Yeah.
something. But once it started, the restrictions started coming back up. I was like, okay, start doing some more things. But really getting moving and walking and stuff like that,
Right.
that helped out a lot too. Definitely discovered that I like going on walks,
Mhm.
especially when things get stressful and
Right.
like a lot is just going on. Like, I just like to go on walks.
Mhm.
It's just, I don't know, it's kind of just soothing to me just to go on a nice little mile or two walk,
Yeah.
just enjoying God's creation, just breathing and being like, you know what, that's usually when in those moments, if I'm like, I need to go on a walk, I'll either listen to some music and usually pray to God, talk to God, be
Mhm.
like, God, I'm really stressed out right now. Like, a lot's going on. Like, I just not really sure what to do, and just do that.
So it's very much like a conversation before you
Yeah.
talk to God.
Pretty much. Yeah.
You got a really cool journey in that you've gone through where you're not deprived necessarily, but you didn't have any experience with it. And then you got into church and your parents warmed up to it. And ultimately you came to faith. And so what did COVID, and you're graduating from college pretty soon, but you've gone through this period now where you've been able to be out and be more among other people. What are some of the faith lessons you learned during COVID? What did God teach you?
I've definitely had my trials. Like, I am not perfect. I've done things that, I'm not proud of, like things that have went on, but that's the amazingness of Jesus and the gift that God gave us, that it doesn't matter what we've done. Like, if we ask for forgiveness and ask Jesus into our hearts, like, he forgives us because he wants a relationship with us. It's the only thing that separates us is sin.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's dividing us. And He wants a relationship with us. He created each and every one of us.
Mhm.
And that's why he sent his son, Jesus. He didn't have to. He chose to because that's how much he cares for us. And that's how much he loves us. And during college, like I really found in my college years, like being out of the home, like it is challenging to continue to be rooted in your faith because you're not always going with your parents. It's usually your parents saying, "Hey, let's go to church." When you get to college, you don't have your parents there.
Right.
It's up to you. It depends on who you surround yourself with and everything.
Yeah.
So with COVID and all that, I was really watching Elevation Church online, and
Great church.
yeah, and I was watching that, and I was like, you know what? I feel like it's great, but it's like I'm not really feeling it, and was kind of going through some things of like, you know, I do want to get into a church and get involved with that, and then that's when I found the point.
Yeah, I was curious how you found us. Was it online or was it
no? So
by, or?
My brother, he just recently bought a house. Actually, we were talking about it yesterday. It's been a year since he bought the house in Mount Holly.
Okay.
We were working on the house and we went to Walmart to get either some food or something like that for the house. Yeah. And we drove past, we went out the light and saw the church. And I was like, huh, you know, I feel like I have been wanting to get back into church. And I was like, you know what? I'll look into it, you know, look it up, stuff like that. And it was I went home over for winter break in December. And then when I came back, I was like, you know what? I want to get involved with the church and go to church just because the environment is amazing to be, you know, obviously surrounded by people who have the same beliefs and think similar to, like, you know, they believe in Jesus and everything. And that's when I went and came in January, and I've been coming to the point since January. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. But with back to the lessons in college, like it's your own faith. Like it's not anybody else's faith besides yours. Like you
gotta own it.
It's your own faith. You own up to it. And it's like, how much are you willing to feed into it and put into it like that? My brother, he usually says it's like, it's a relationship. Like God is going to meet you at some point. Like you have to be willing to bring something and like wanting to do. Yeah. And God will meet you there. Like I feel like there are times where God will just help lift you up, but there are always points where it's like, God's right here, but how are you going to meet? Like if you're, you know, for example, like if you're looking for a job, like, God, I really need a job. Like, look, but it's like, okay, you want him to give you a job, but like, are you currently looking? Are you kind of pursuing that? I feel like if you are pursuing that and going with it, it's like, okay, God's going to work. Like God's just not going to drop it in your lap and say, here, play ball, go do it.
More collaborative.
Like,
I'll do my part, God does his part.
It's a relationship. Like relationships, you have to work at them. Friendships, relationships with a spouse or anything. Like you're constantly working, and that's how it is with God. And there was a point of my life, I was in a relationship and I strayed away from God and kind of just put him over to the side and was only really calling on him and being like, hey, God, I need help with this. Yeah. And then, you know, I was just like, okay, now I'm going to go back to do this. Everything's going. And I stopped making God the center of my life and making the other person the center. And I was starting to reach a point, like there were signs and everything going on. And it's like, you're not happy. You're not what you're wanting to do. Like you're giving so much and you're doing so much, and you're not really taking care of you. And I'm not the most selfish person in the world. I care a lot about other people. That I'm not trying to boost
you have your I am second.
Yeah, I'm not trying to boost my ego or anything. It's just,
but you like to think of others first.
Yeah, I think that's how God made me. He made me to serve others, and that's what he's put on my heart, to help out with others and try and guide and support and be there.
Right.
And there was a point I was like, I'm really, really struggling, God. Like I'm at a crossroads of, do I need to keep going in this relationship or do I need to leave? And I was really in some turmoil of like, I don't want to leave, but like, I know I should leave, but I feel like I can't. And I remember praying to God and being like, God, you have to, you need to give me the strength to get out of this, like to end it. Like I don't want to end it. Like I care about this person and everything. It's just, it's taking so much from me and I'm not in a place where I feel like I should be, where you're calling me to be. And I just need the strength to get out of it. And, you know, I need you to help me out with that. And I believe that he answered my prayer and he helped me, you know, and get out of the relationship. That sounds like getting out. It's like, oh, I needed to pack my bags and leave as soon as possible. But it was like, it wasn't the best thing for me at that time. So I had to leave. And after it was really tough and it was really challenging. Because when, you know, I had made that person my like whole center, everything was coming from that, like compliments, things like this, like, oh, I need to check. Like it wasn't focused on God. So it was definitely challenging to switch back over and be like, you know, it should have been God from the first place and it wasn't.
Yeah.
So that definitely had its trials and experiences. And, you know, love my brother to death. He's my best friend, really talking with him and everything. He's amazing. Just supporting me, talking with my parents, talking with my friends. They're like, you know, you just gotta focus on God and hold on to God and trust in him.
Cool.
Just do that.
So you got that kind of support network and you recognized you needed that.
Yeah.
Because breaking off a relationship where you're close to somebody, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
Plus you're coming out of COVID and you got loneliness going on and all that kind of stuff.
It was like it was a 1.5 year relationship. And it was, you know, it was when COVID was going on. Right. So a lot of time was just spent with that person. So a lot came from that. And it's it was definitely challenging. Sure. For sure. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thanks for being honest with us, man. You bared your soul with us.
Yeah.
So what's really cool for me is I got a chance to see you in action one day with our 4th and 5th graders. As we moved out the patios late this summer and you kind of took over and you and Brian Sandifer, I think we're working together. Is that right?
Yes. I think that was, one Sunday. It was either
one of those Sundays.
It was with him or it was with Dave.
Yeah. Or Dave Bushart.
Yeah. I think it was Dave.
Yeah, that's right. And you guys are teaching kids. And here's the deal. A lot of times teachers that are working in schools, the last thing they want to do is come to church and teach too. I guess they're tired of it or whatever. But instead you've turned it into kind of like an experiment of how to share your faith, but also to share what you're learning and teaching too.
Yeah, I will definitely say when I remember you saying that to me, like, oh, it's awesome that, you know, I remember you saying like, I don't get why teachers don't do this. And I was kind of like, huh. And it was at the very beginning before I started my student teaching where I was in every single day.
Yeah.
And just recently I was like, I think I figured it out because with teaching, you're doing it all week. And once Friday hits, you hit a brick wall and you don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
And there's been weekends where I have literally just done absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Like there's things that I've had to do for myself to get myself to graduate. I'm just like, I don't want to do it because
the mental energy's not there.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
And it popped into my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, this is why I can see some teachers don't want to work with kids maybe on Sunday.
Yeah.
And that's nothing against them. Like I completely understand.
Yeah. Well, you've already you're empathizing with them because you've done what they've been doing for.
Yeah, I understand. It's like, at first I was like, I really don't get why. But then it's like now, I understand why, because you're just mentally exhausted.
Well, just somebody, not just a pastor, but just as a regular person, I'm grateful that you're willing to invest your life in kids that are like ours. I have a granddaughter that's in that class when you guys meet together before you break into smaller groups where girls go one direction, guys go another direction. It just means really a lot to me to be able to know that there's somebody that's young and somebody they look up to that they can learn from. That is important. So thank you for serving in that
Of course. Yeah. And it's all God, because the way that I actually got into it was VBS.
Yeah.
I remember it over the summer, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to volunteer for VBS. Just, I want to do something for the church. And got to VBS. We had our meeting and everything. And Brittany, she was like, oh, like, we were introducing ourselves, what we were doing and everything. And I was like, oh, I'm student teaching at UNC Charlotte.
Yeah.
Getting ready to go in. She was like, huh, what grade are you about to teach? I was like, 4th grade. She was like, huh, I'm going to need to talk to you. And at the time, one of the 4th and 5th grade guys left to go to another church.
Right.
And she was like, we've been praying about it and thinking. And I was like, and I felt that the Holy Spirit was moving on me like 2 weeks before, of like, you need to do something at the church. Like, there's something that you can do, like how you can serve at the church. I was like, God, what is it? At first I thought it was like a college group of like, young adults of doing like 18 to 24, talking about college things and everything. And I was like, I don't know if that's it. And then this came up, and I was like, I remember after the meeting, I was like, God, if this is what you want me to explore and to do, then I'll do it. Like, I'll go into it trusting in you, having that faith. And I just felt like a sense of calmness come over as I was sitting in my car. I was like, okay,
so that's it.
I think I'm going to definitely do this and go with it. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So, and it's cool that you're paired up with Dave some of the times, because Dave's like that too. He's kind of like a calm spirit who experiences God, that kind of thing. A lot of times it's even the people that you serve with where you learn key lessons from. And I'm just glad you guys are like the dynamic duo. You're Batman and Robin, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
That's
you
cool.
could say that. Yeah.
So when you graduate, are you planning to stay in this area? Or are you planning to go back to Reidsville?
So that is the plan right now, to stay in the Charlotte area. Okay. Obviously, currently right now, it could change, and it's not up to me. It's wherever God seems to have me fit. There are some times like I kind of do struggle with like, okay, God, I think I really want to go here.
Yeah.
But then it's like, wait a second, it's not your plan, it's his plan.
Right.
And just kind of waiting on that. So I think right now, kind of staying down here in the Charlotte area, there are definitely options up in Reidsville.
Yep.
That I'm just kind of looking at all things, praying about it right now. Especially with graduation coming up and trying to do something.
When's your graduation day?
December 15th.
All right. December 15th. I've already invited out there.
Yeah. No, we have a limited amount of tickets.
We have a limited amount. We'll celebrate with you when you get to church that day. That's cool. I'm grateful that you're willing to take the initiative to help us and to jump in this way. And it's just such a big deal that when men work with children, it makes an impact on their lives. Obviously, it makes an impact on their lives, and women are the core of nurturing and childcare. But it's important for boys and girls to look up to men that are willing to take a strong example and be a strong example for Christ. So I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, well, thank you. And there's not a whole lot of there are males that go into education.
Yep.
But a majority of them are going into middle school or high school. There's not a lot that go into
elementary education.
Elementary. Like, for example, I believe in our graduating class right now, there's only 2 males, and one of them is including me.
Wow.
And it is very evident to see, like, usually when you think of elementary teachers, you usually think, oh, it's a female teacher. You don't really think a whole lot of male teachers unless it's like the PE teacher.
Sure.
So it's like, it's very, when you kind of think about it, and like, I don't think about it too whole much, because I'm like, I'm there and I'm here doing it. But there are some cases where like some of the like kids' homes lives are not the greatest, and they don't have a male figure in their life. And I was actually working at a summer camp, like a school summer camp, and we were doing reading intervention. And there was this one of the students I was teaching, that, it was always a roller coaster. It was like we have one good day or maybe 2 bad days, one good day, 2 bad. And I just remember one day I was like, hey, I care about you and I love you. And I remember them shaking their head no. And it kind of broke my heart a little bit. I was like,
I'm not lovable, or no, you don't.
It's like, it wasn't that. I was just like, I might be like the first, when I was thinking about it later, I was like, I might be one of the first people, like male, like figures or role models that told them that I care about them and love them.
Yeah.
And that kind of sat heavy on my heart a little bit. And I was like, sometimes when you take a step back and you're not in it all the time.
Yeah.
When you really look at it that way, it's like, man, I am doing something. And, I'm not big on trying to praise myself, but it's crazy to
very
kind of
gratifying to know you made a difference in that kid's life.
It's just like, it makes you really think of like how important is what I'm doing right now currently.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me move to the third part of our interview together today. So we always kind of go through this situation where we ask questions about preferences. Would you prefer this or that? And let me throw out some questions and get your responses just to see how you're doing with that and what you would do. So if you got some time on your hands, would you rather go to a desert island or would you rather climb a mountain?
Desert island.
Because?
Well, it depends. Is there like things to do on the desert island, or is it like survival?
Potentially. Yeah, maybe there would be places where you could sleep and eat indoors.
Okay, I didn't know if it was like a survival thing, like oh, you have to climb this mountain or you're on this desert island.
Okay, let's go to the survival element first. Then we'll talk about a vacation. If you had to survive, would you rather climb a mountain? Or would you rather go to a desert island?
I'd rather go to the desert island.
Okay,
just because. Or
deserted island. There's not a desert island, probably, is there? Unless I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway,
probably the desert island or deserted island or whatever.
There are fewer obstacles to have to overcome, right?
Climbing a mountain. One, I'm not the biggest fan of heights. Like I can get on a roof of a house, but when it goes like up and I look over.
Yeah, I'm like, that.
I'm gonna stand in the middle,
Me too, man.
not to the railing.
Get up there.
One, rock climbing walls.
Yeah,
I am not very good on those.
Okay,
so I think the island would be the best option. Plus, I like tropical, like stuff like that. So
okay, fancy restaurants or simple restaurants?
Simple restaurants. I don't think I've ever been to a fancy restaurant.
Yeah. So what is an example? What's your favorite restaurant?
I don't know. It kind of depends on what I want to eat that day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoy eating food.
Right.
I mean, I can't have shellfish because I'm allergic to it.
Okay.
So
no shrimp for you.
No, can't have any of it.
All right, got it.
Yeah, but
no crabs for you. Nothing like that.
No, can't have seafood. That category is just completely off the palate, pretty much.
So would you go to like Morton Steakhouse, which is very fancy, or would you go to like Longhorn Steakhouse?
I'd probably go to Longhorn. Yeah. I mean,
no
if anything, I'd probably just get my own steak and grill that up.
So you're more do-it-yourself kind of guy.
I mean, yeah, but then it's always nice to have somebody cook for you, and then you don't have to clean up after it too.
Cool. Blue sky days or cloudy days?
Blue sky.
Because?
I don't know. Just cloudy days are, I don't know. It doesn't really. Now, if it's like I'm staying in for the day, then I'm like, okay, it's a cloudy day. But even then, it's like when I look out, I'm like, well, it's not much I can do.
Yeah, to me, that whole COVID season was like a big, long, cloudy day with rain all the time. It kind of felt like the loneliness. It can be depressing because you're lonely. I was grateful that I was considered to be an essential employee because I got to go out and it was understood that I needed to be out and about among people.
Yeah,
just being not around them is something different.
Yeah, just something about the blue sky. Just like looking up, it's like yeah, it's nice. It just brings like a calming sense. It's probably because my favorite color is blue.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think
like that sky blue or like Duke blue.
I kind of like darker blue, like navy.
Okay.
Blue.
Like Duke University blue. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you a Duke fan or Carolina fan?
Neither.
Okay. What are you?
Texas Longhorns.
Oh, Longhorns.
Yeah.
All right. You're going away. So what's the story behind that? Do you have relatives out there or just?
No, funny thing, I actually want to go visit out in Texas.
Yeah.
No, I don't really know how I liked the Longhorns. It might be because of my cousin. he had like a pair of Texas Longhorn shorts, and I
Yeah.
thought they were so cool.
Yeah.
And like I got to wear them or something like that.
Interesting.
And I don't know, I just liked them ever
Yesterday-
since Colt McCoy.
I had an interaction with this guy that came to pick up some wood from our house. We destroyed the deck, and he came to get our leftover wood. And he raised Texas Longhorn cows here in Gaston County.
Oh, really?
He showed me pictures of them. It's like 6 feet from
Yeah.
tip to tip, and it was wild.
Yeah.
And he had them branded certain kinds of ways, all that kind of stuff. So you've answered the other question. So you're a Longhorn fan as opposed to Carolina or Duke. So if the Longhorns were playing on television, you'd rather watch the Longhorn.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite football team, like not college, but
Professional.
professional. Yeah.
The Baltimore Ravens.
Okay, because not the Panthers,
Mm-mm.
not the Cowboys,
No.
not the Jets.
No.
Why the Ravens?
So when I was younger, I played on our football team, and we were the Ravens.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like Ravens.
Do you
And
have the
then-
same colors as the
Yep,
Baltimore Ravens?
same exact colors, same
awesome.
logo decal on the helmet. Yeah, it was cool.
That's cool.
So-
I've been in that stadium before. As a matter of fact, it was the year after they won the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl champions always play on Monday Night Football.
hmm
And Ray Lewis is still playing.
Yep.
So Ray Lewis came out and did his little squirrel dance and all that kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Yep. Yeah, I remember watching that game,
Yeah.
the Super Bowl against the
great
49ers.
game.
Yep.
Absolutely. So if you had an option to travel and somebody gave you $5,000 and they said, you got to go to one of two continents, would you go to Europe or Asia or Africa?
I'd probably go to Europe because
Because
I'm a big history guy, and a lot of history happened in Europe. Specifically, like I would try and go to like World War II locations because I absolutely like love learning about World War II. But then I also would go to Rome just to see the Colosseum, all of that, kind of just experience that and be like, man, this is Rome. And This is what it's like. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Good deal. So you'd be playing your honeymoon, man. You never know. Somebody could be watching this right now. They could be the person that you spend the rest of your life with. You never can tell.
Maybe.
She's already planning her honeymoon with you. That's cool. Ford or Chevy?
See, right now I drive a Chevy,
Okay.
but I don't know.
Or something else. You have another favorite car you'd like to have one day?
It usually goes between two. I like to have a Porsche 911
Okay.
or a Nissan GTR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fast cars and
Yeah. Well, I just think they're like cool design
cool looking.
and everything. Like I already have a speeding ticket, so I don't need to get another one. So
I love it. So
Yeah.
what was that like? Where did you get your speeding ticket?
up,
Inside the city or?
no, it was going up a mountain. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So there's another bad reason. No mountains, deserted islands. Better be.
Yeah, it wasn't. That day was. It was just not. Wasn't in a good headspace when I got it, and yeah, it was. It was an event,
Yeah.
and I remember calling. I remember to call my dad first because my mom. I knew she was gonna tear me up about it,
Yeah.
and I called my dad. He was like, "What?" He was like, "You need to get back down to the house right now." I was
okay.
like, "Oh, okay." And
So is this in
Yeah.
high school?
no, this was in college.
College. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was not a fun experience, I
Yeah.
would say.
Plus you get to pay for it for 3 years, right?
No, I paid it all at once.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that was not fun.
That's one way to do it. You have to go to driver school and all that kind of stuff.
I had to take a class
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
That's-
yeah, I took a day. I was like, I got to take this class. Might as well do it today. I didn't have any other assignments to do. I was like, just going to sit at home and
Become a
Do
better
that.
driver.
yeah, pretty much.
So Coke or Pepsi?
I actually don't drink soda a whole lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dasani or Fiji water? If you're
Tap,
drinking water.
tap water.
Tap water. Forget
Tap
that.
water.
No
Yeah.
Dasani, no Fiji. This
Yeah.
guy's going to be a teacher. He's on a limited budget. He's not going to get
I mean,
stuff.
back in Reedsville, we were on a well,
Yeah.
so just drinking tap
Just
water.
good, clear water.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't know, just soda. If I do drink it, it's usually like Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like when we were younger, we did like a New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Where we weren't going to drink soda for like a year.
Yeah.
And we didn't. And it was just like, it's not that.
You didn't miss
bad.
it that much.
No, like even when I go out to restaurants, it's like,
Yeah.
I'll just get a water.
Just
Like I
give me
don't,
water.
one is cheaper. And I don't know, just soda. And when I do drink soda, it's a wreck. It's just burping all the time. It's crazy.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
So since you work with fourth and fifth grade boys and girls in both regular school and during Kids Point and stuff like that, who's easier to work with, boys or girls? Or is it not that easy? Is it not that clear choice? It's more on the individual.
I don't think there's a clear choice to it, just because everyone's unique
Mm-hmm.
and they bring different things to the table. And like as a teacher, it's very important to get to know your students and who they are,
Right.
and what they like to do and things like that. Because then you can use that when you are in teaching instruction,
Right.
which really gets them engaged. I don't think I really have a preference. I think it's just cool to get to know every kid. I know boys at this age definitely have a lot more energy
Mm-hmm.
than girls, because girls are starting to mature
Right.
more as they continue to get older.
Right.
Yeah, boys, they can be wild at sometimes, but
Yeah.
I enjoy both of them. I don't really have a preference.
That's cool. Well, the fact that you're willing to do that with both is really cool. Do you have an experience or something that happened inside of Kids Point in the last 6 to 9 months that was really meaningful to you in working with our kids?
Oh goodness.
Conversation, or when somebody got something you were teaching them, or you felt appreciated, or anything like that?
The one that sticks out in my mind is one of our kids. They were talking to me, or the parent came up and was like, yeah, they're having some trouble with their it was like right at the beginning of the school year.
Okay.
Like, yeah, they're having a little bit of trouble with their teacher. Like their teacher's just doing these things and all of that. Like, you know, maybe if you could, like, if you would talk to them, because they knew like I was a teacher and
Right.
everything. And I talked with this, and I was just
Student.
like, hey, you know, every teacher is going to be different. Like if you don't know a question, like you raise your hand, you just be polite. You know, everyone's going to react differently. That's just how the way of the world works. Like everyone's not going to be the same. Like you're going to have people that are going to treat you nicely, and then there's going to be people that don't treat you as nice.
Right.
And I was just kind of like, you know, you just be kind, you be respectful, like you continue to do, like there's no need for you to be upset and feel like you're doing something wrong.
Right.
Like as long as you're doing something right and you're doing the correct things, then you don't need to feel bad about it.
Right.
Like now, if you're doing something bad, like breaking one of the rules or showcasing negative behavior,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, okay, I can understand where their teacher's coming from. But just being able to share that with them, it was kind of like, it's not so much just you, like in that moment, I was trying to teach them about, you know, God and Jesus and share all these things with them. And
It's just about common everyday.
it was just
respect.
kind of like just a moment of like, you know, I am a teacher in the field, and like, here's someone that is also a student and is expressing these concerns. I'm like, you know, I've been able to see a vast variety of different teachers, and
Right.
I'm able to see that. So it was pretty cool to share that with them.
So you're using your Sunday morning experience to help them on their Monday.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Trying to, at least.
So, well, I'm sure you made a great impact on that student, and you know, just your presence makes a big difference with them. Is there anything that you would leave us with as kind of a closing note, just something that God's taught you recently, or a favorite Bible verse, or a favorite spiritual concept, or something like that, that could bring this to a close?
Just the main thing of Jesus loves you.
Mm-hmm.
He's always there for you. Recently been going through some personal issues of like, you know, am I really like, how can I hear God? Like I'm praying, but I don't really feel him moving.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, he's doing something. You just got to be patient and wait on him.
Right.
Just showing love to everyone. You know, there's a lot of hate in this world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trying to go after everyone, and you just got to love on everybody.
There's a better way.
You just can't, don't need to judge people. Like the first thing you should try and do is to understand. And that's like one of the things that I've been learning of, like when you share your faith,
Mm-hmm.
like you don't try and pound it into them and be like,
Right.
oh, you need to know all this. Like I'm trying to show you this. Like, why aren't you just understanding? It's more of, you have to understand where they're coming from.
Mhm.
Like you got to learn about them and try and be relatable to them. Be like, hey, like if there's something that stick out, like something you share in common, be like, hey, I've experienced this and here's how I do it.
Right.
And it's just not trying to make them believe it right then and there and be like, oh, you accept. It's more of like, maybe you're just there to plant the seed.
Right.
Because you can't change their heart. Only God can change their heart.
Mm-hmm.
But you can be a tool and a person that leads them and can guide them. Just love people, give your all to Jesus. It's hard. There's a saying, if it was easy, everyone would do it. It's hard because what Jesus calls us to do is the complete opposite of what the world says us to do.
Right.
Go out, party, have fun, do all these things, gossip. Like Jesus, he calls us not to go that way and to stand out and be a light in this world. And it's very tough. There's been times in my life where it's been challenging to be a light, and it feels like, oh, you're kind of under attack. And there's been times where I haven't been bold enough to say something about it. And in those moments, I kind of am like, man, I wish I could just have the strength and more. And it's just, you got to be firm in your faith,
right,
and know what you believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jesus, he died for us. He paid the ultimate price for us. He took all of our sins so that we have a relationship with God, because
Right.
God wants a relationship with each and every one of us. He
Right.
does. He cares about us. He made each and every one of us. We're all unique. We're all different. If we were all the same, it would be a pretty boring place, because we would all like the same thing. We would all do the same thing, and not a lot would happen or go
Right.
on. So
it seems like you've got a lot in there. I mean, you love people. Sometimes you're going to pray and ask God for guidance, and it seems like he's not talking, but you got to keep hanging in there. Pay attention to people individually. Just lots of really important things. Man, Matthew, thank you for sharing your
Mhm.
life with us today. And
thank you.
we're excited about what God's going to do in your life. And thanks for being on our team. So tune in next week for the next edition of the Next Step podcast. Hey, watch this, share this with friends, like us, subscribe to the channel, because we want to make a difference in people's lives. And this is something about people like you and me and Matthew that want to make a difference for Christ in the world. Thanks again for being with us. I appreciate you.
Thank you.